Welcome to Nasdaq Trade Talks. I'm Jill Malandrino, Global Markets Reporter at Nasdaq. Joining us for this segment, we have Rob Gough, Portfolio Manager with Strategy Shares Halt Climate Change ETF, ticker NZRO. Clever listings team there. And we're going to discuss the methodology behind the ETF and why the climate change problem is likely to create an opportunity for the companies looking to provide solutions. Rob, it's great to see you. Welcome to Trade Talks.
Great to see you as well. Thanks for having me.
You got it, Rob. And before we discuss the ETF, let's start with climate change. Do we have the technology to end climate change?
Yeah, of course. I mean, there's tons of carbon capture technology out there. There's a factory in Iceland called Orca that, it takes the air out of the atmosphere, removes the carbon, and then puts it back into the ground permanently. So, that's a great technology that can reverse climate change. And obviously, you've got companies like Tesla and things that are switching people from using gas-powered vehicles to, battery-powered. And there's just so much technology out there. But yes, the answer is we do have the technology already.
Now, the scale of climate change problem, is it likely to create an opportunity for the companies? In other words, just how big is it? Is this something on the scale of, let's say, the internet as an example?
Massive. Yeah, it's definitely on the scale of the internet. And it's growing tremendously each and every year.
And over the past decade, have the sustainable stocks, in fact, outperformed oil companies, tobacco, airlines, automakers, coal-powered utilities?
Right. Yeah, they have. I mean, if you look back, over the past decade, those particular stocks have underperformed. You look at all those kind of things, the airlines, those power plants, the stocks have not done well. And in reverse, you look at companies that are more ESG and more green, and they've done a tremendous job. So yeah, you're right.
So why did you launch the Strategy Shares Halt Climate Change ETF? What's the methodology behind it?
Well, I mean, first of all, it's a massive problem, right? I mean, I want to have kids one day, and halting climate change is just a huge problem. And also it filled a need for myself. In 2010, I invested in a recycling company, and we sold in 2013 to kind of scale it even further. But the environment and this climate problem has always been on my mind. So I was always telling my financial team to, pivot my strategy into more ESG, more green investing, more companies that are doing a really good job for, removing the carbon from the way they run their business. And, you look under the hood of some of the products that I looked at, the other mutual funds or ETFs, and, a lot of them were greenwashing. And that's not where I want to put my money, and they would invest in oil and gas companies, coal producing power plants, or, airlines. And it's a tremendous that they are kind of moving in the direction of becoming better and, running their business in a different manner. But at the end of the day, an airline is still, not good from a carbon output level. And same with these power plants and things. So it filled a need that I had for my own portfolio. And that's really kind of part of the reason why we launched this thing, is to fix climate change, but also to manage my own portfolio.
Mm-hmm. So when we think about the methodology behind it, it sounds like it would be actively managed, or are you tracking an index? What are there specific sectors that you stick with? I would imagine that, to your point with greenwashing before, it can be hard to discern what might be appropriate and what's not, because you can look across every sector and somebody has, a net zero policy advertised on their website. So how do you discern which stocks truly fit into this portfolio?
Yeah, great question. I mean, we do a fundamental review of the actual company, and also a green review. So, the team is always making sure that the company is obviously a great company we want in the portfolio, but also doing things in a very good green manner, not just saying that they're going to do something, because, a lot of these companies are just, they're promising the world, but then they don't really stick to it. So in order to be in the portfolio, you have to either, make a massive company pledge and of course stick to it. So an example would be like Microsoft. They made a big pledge that there'd be negative carbon from an operational standpoint. It's a massive commitment. Or a company that their business model helps to, change and halt climate change. That'd be like a Tesla. Obviously, it's just a massive thing. But also what makes NZRO different is we're taking the profits from the ETF and we're investing it into the private sector, into companies that are reversing climate change. So, that's something that, we want to fuel those private companies to get their technology to a new level and to get that business to hopefully be public one day. But so I think that's where it's a massive difference, investing in the private side and also reviewing the different companies from both, business side and also to ensure that they're actually doing what they say they're doing.
That's interesting that you're taking the profits and moving it into private investment. So aside from that, how is it different from other ETFs that are tied to the topic of climate change?
Yeah, well, again, we want to make sure that this thing is not just greenwashing. So that's just something that if, as I looked under the hood, a lot of them, a lot of the companies that they had were companies that maybe said a big company pledge, but didn't stick to it, or they were investing in businesses that, I don't really feel are good for the environment. Like, let's use Nike, for example. Great business, massive, and they made a good company pledge. But at the end of the day, it's still Nike. We can't control their factories, how they are from a carbon standpoint. We can't control their distribution manner. So that particular stock is not in NZRO. Although it's a great business, but it did not meet the requirements from our green review.
Interesting. All right, Rob, we appreciate the insight. Thanks for joining us on Trade Talks. I'm Jill Malandrino, Global Markets Reporter at Nasdaq.